So today I decided to compare some AliExpress headlamps and choose the one I like the most and take a look at that one in more detail. But first let's go through all of them. The first one is absolutely ridiculously huge for a headlamp. It looks like a joke headlamp from some TikTok video, and it has basically two sets of LEDs. The center one, the other ones, both, and the annoying flashing of course. A very quick demonstration of the pattern. The center LED is a very narrow beam with a weird pattern around it. The side LEDs are a wider beam, and this is all combined. The flashing. I chose this one mostly because there can be some potential for modifications, for example putting red or yellow LEDs into some positions. This one has a built-in lithium-ion battery. You can't actually take the battery out without unscrewing anything. Of course the capacity of the internal battery has to be measured using my battery analyzer, but this will go into a separate video. This is definitely not my favorite. It's just too large for a headlamp. The second one is a bit similar, a bit smaller but still quite huge for a headlamp. And I guess this fell over here. You can see these covers for the USB ports for buttons actually fall off easily. A common problem of most of these. And again, center LEDs, side LEDs, all flashing. The modes are actually the same as this one, but there is a battery state indicator, a micro USB charging port, and that's it. Can adjust it like this, which was the case in the other one too. This one is actually adjustable continuously, not clicking. Again, the center LED, the side LED is a bit wider beam, all combined, flashing, and that's it. And again, not my favorite. Again, a built-in battery which has to be tested in a separate video and might be modified. The third one is using 3 AAA batteries, or rechargeable batteries. I already unscrewed this and you can see the internals. It's actually quite dim, but that's to be expected for AAAs. And this one can be easily modified, and this LED can be changed because it's a standard type of an LED and you don't really need any special soldering tools to change this. And it's actually quite similar to this one from the outside. I already modified this one in another video. The plastic is the same shape, just a different color, but the internals are different. The control board is completely different. The other one has the components on the other side of the board and a completely different type of a board. And also the other one had SMD red LEDs. This one has through-hole red LEDs in it. There is a lot of versions of this one. It's on AliExpress, but also can be bought locally. Also the side LEDs could be changed if needed. Very easy to modify with through-hole LEDs, but it's never going to be too powerful. I might modify it in a separate video. Then there is this one which I already modified in one of my videos. I changed the side LEDs from cool white to yellow. And it also reduced its brightness after a couple minutes, probably to prevent overheating, but it did so too conservatively. So I actually disabled this function. And of course the cover again is falling off for the button and the USB port. There is no battery in it. And this is all plastic, no metal. And the battery goes in like this. It's a typical 18650. Not bad after the modification because of the yellow mode, which I like, but really not very useful as it is, especially because it's reducing its brightness to about 1/4 after just 5 minutes. Then there is this one which is very similar. It's the same body. After the cover falls off it looks a bit different, but it's the same thing except the configuration of these LEDs. The center one is the same. The side LEDs are the only difference. This one has 3 parabolas. This one has 1 parabola here and these very diffused light LEDs on the sides. And they contain white but also red chips in it. Let's put a battery in it. It's the same battery holder. Let's put some random battery into it. Does it work with a flat top battery? Well, it might not. It seems to barely make contact on a flat top battery. 18650 again. The center LED, lower. The side LED is white. Red mode. Flashing red. And that's it. And obviously the center LED, a narrow beam. Lower. A very diffused light of the side LEDs. Dim red. Flashing, and that's it. Actually, just like the previous one, a long press gets you into an SOS mode using all white LEDs in it. And again, just like this one, not very bright, and it of course can't have much heat sinking in a plastic housing. But then there is this one, which is the only one which uses a bigger battery than 18650. This one actually uses 21700. This size of a battery, even though you can actually put the smaller one in it and it still works. This is 18650, this is 21700, a bit bigger one, and this one actually accepts this one too, and it actually has several modes and also a sensor. This cover is a little bit tricky to put on, actually. It has a magnet here, and it also doubles as a power bank. It has a charging USB-C port here, but also a USB-A port here, which is a bit misaligned with the whole 3 control buttons. The side one is for the main LED, high power, low power, with some pulse width modulation, which is quite low frequency, just 100 Hz. This is actually the sensor mode. You can actually turn it on and off by waving a hand in front of it. Annoying flashing, super bright annoying flashing. The center button is the same LED but without the sensor. High power, low power, flashing. So these two buttons are the center LED with the sensor and without the sensor. And this button is the side LEDs. Small white LEDs, not very powerful, diffused light. And the red LEDs and red blinking or SOS mode actually it seems. And off. You can actually combine the functions. The central LED and the side LEDs can be combined. The red mode and this one can be combined, apparently, or the low mode. Again, the pulse width modulation, 100 Hz only, which is unusual. Typically, the pulse width modulation frequency is about 200 Hz to multiple kilohertz in torches, but here it's actually very low, just 100 Hz. You can see the rolling shutter effect in the camera. And the pattern, the center LED, high brightness, low brightness, it's a narrow beam, flashing and off, and the side LEDs, a diffused light with a weird pattern, it's a spot in the middle, then a darker circle around it, and another bright circle around, weird, not a very convenient pattern, and the red mode, very dim, and it has weird areas, not very uniform. And the last button is for the sensor function of the center LED, and a blue LED indicating that the sensor is activated. I was going to test the USB power bank function, but there is no chance of inserting the USB-A port into it. It's just completely misaligned. But I might try to open it and fix it in a separate video. This one is quite powerful. It can take a 5000 mAh battery, so it can also last a long time, but it's also kind of heavy for a headlamp. I should probably weigh them. Without the head strap, it's 180 grams. These ones are big, but actually not as heavy, 78 grams. The biggest one, 107 grams, huge but plastic, so not heavy. This is with the battery, 80 grams. This without the battery, with the head strap, 42 grams only. The small AAA one is super lightweight, of course. This one with the batteries in it, 80 grams. I will definitely try to open this one in one of my videos and try to modify it somehow and fix the port misaligned here. And there is this one which is actually quite nice, without the battery, 62 grams. Or about 105 grams with the battery. It has a cool white and a warm white LED in it. This is the cool white. Even brighter, low, the warm white, and a lower warm white, and no flashing. This is actually quite nice. And it's made of metal or aluminium, good heat sinking but still not too heavy for a headlamp. A long press, a super dim mode for the cool white LED. I would actually say this one is the second best out of all the headlamps I compared, but my favorite is this one, which is 109 grams, and it has 3 cool white LEDs in it and 2 warm white LEDs. It has multiple modes, the cool white, warm white or nothing, no flashing to go through, and the cool white actually has 5 brightness levels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then it again goes to the highest one, but also you can use a double press, even brighter, off, but also a long press actually gives you the super low mode for the cool white LEDs. So in total you have 7 levels of brightness for the cool white ones, Now let's go to the warm white, and this is high, medium, low. When you keep the button pressed, you go through 3 levels. And off, no flashing to go through, just cool white, warm white, off. And a double press from off is the super high brightness. Or from the cool white mode, again, a double press, the super high brightness mode. Back to the normal one, warm white, off. If you keep it in the cool white one for several seconds, then it goes straight to off without going through the warm white. And there is actually some flashing mode, but it's only accessible from the warm white using a double press. This strobing, again a double press, SOS, or weird flashing, alternately cool white and warm white. You definitely don't have to go through the flashing when just using it normally. There is actually another version of this one which is almost the same, except instead of the warm white LEDs you have red LEDs. Well, there's multiple versions. You always have the 3 cool white LEDs, and the other 2 can be also blue or green or ultraviolet in the other versions. And I guess the program is the same in them. Cool white, red, off. And the cool white again has 5 levels of brightness. You go through them using the long press. And the red one, again 3 levels, double press, weird flashing, another double press. The version with the 2 red LEDs should be the same weight, and it is. And these also contain a battery level indicator. This one shows red, it's almost empty. This one green, there is also a state in between, which shows a combination of the green and red, forming some sort of yellow or orange. That's the state in between. Green and red combination, even though the red is a bit dimmer. And these indicator LEDs also indicate the charging. Red when it's charging and green when it's charged. In these ones, the ends can be unscrewed. One actually reveals the battery, you can take it out. And the other one actually reveals the charging port. You can unscrew this end, the one with the button, and it reveals the charging port. And I also have to mention the red mode. A lot of torches and headlamps have a red mode, but in most cases it's bloody dim. This one has a dim red mode, this one as well. This one had a red mode before I disassembled it, this one before I changed the LEDs to yellow. But again, it was quite a dim red mode. You could use it in a tent, for example, but definitely not for walking at night or hiking or running. Whereas this one has a super bright red mode. You can actually use it for walking or hiking in a forest at night. It's a way brighter red mode than most of other torches or headlamps. And this one has a battery state indicator for blue LEDs, which is always on, which sort of ruins the philosophy of a red mode, doesn't it? Whereas these have a battery state indicator using 3 colors, and this indicator actually turns off after several seconds. Its warm white brother is very good if you prefer a warm white headlamp. And just to peek under the cover of this one, it has 4 screws in the corners, and this part, and the board. It seems to have a 10 watt LED here and 2 1 watt LEDs here. These 2 are in parallel with this resistor in series, and this one has in series this parallel combination of these 2 resistors, half an ohm. This is a 2 ohm resistor. I guess this 20 ohm resistor is for the red LEDs. And the sensor is using an infrared LED and an infrared photodiode, whichever way they are, and some thermal imaging. The resistors of the main LED are the hottest. The main LED is this temperature, 82 degrees Celsius, and this is the side LED with its series resistor. What if I put yellow LEDs here and here? It has yellow LEDs in it, and under the board there is this, the heatsink for the main LED, the mode chip, the buttons, here's the power bank and charging controller, this chip, the tiny inductor, the USB port, some capacitors, and that's it. I can't move this part, it's press fitted tightly, or can I move it? Well, I actually did. And this power LED is a standard package. It could be changed, for example, for a warm white LED, but I don't have a warm white LED as powerful as this one, about 10 watts. So the board goes back, the yellow LEDs, red LEDs, this LED, And the battery state indicator LEDs, horrible blue ones. I could change them, or I could put some phosphor over them, yellow or red or orange. What about some fluorescent stickers over the holes for the blue LEDs to convert the blue light, which I absolutely hate. And this should do. It's kind of pinkish, but definitely better than blue. It's back together and it can actually charge a phone. But unfortunately the downside of this one is that it will reduce the duty cycle in all modes after several minutes. But almost every powerful headlamp does the same thing, otherwise it would overheat. But I plan to record the actual curve of how the brightness declines over time in a separate video. I forgot to mention this one also has the super bright mode. This is the highest. But there is one even brighter, which you access using a double click, just like in this one and its warm white brother. And these are about $12 to $15 on AliExpress. And one important thing I have to mention is that on eBay or AliExpress, warm white is actually called yellow in LEDs or headlamps or torches. So for example, when looking for this one, you're looking for a white and yellow headlamp actually. I also noticed this one has a very good color rendering for the warm white LED, but a poor one for the cool white. It's a mercury vapor kind of color rendering. It's the other way in this one where the cool white is a good color rendering and the warm white is slightly worse. I mean the warm white brother of this one. Where did I put it? I'm actually using it regularly. I'm not praising something I just took from a box. I have been using it for a couple months and it's quite useful for hiking, walking, running, working. The only thing that could be better would be if there were 3 warm white LEDs and 2 red. And no, this is not sponsored. This one is definitely brighter than this one, but this is right after turning it on. I have to record on a slow rolling oscilloscope how the brightness progresses over time. So that's it, these 5 LED ones are probably the best. This one is the second best, for quite a versatile use, especially outdoors. And these 5 LED things have a memory, they remember the setting 1 out of 5 for the cool white, and 1 out of 3 levels of brightness for the red or warm white. When you turn it off and go back into the mode, it's again in the same brightness setting. These are very cheap, under $5. Useful when you don't want to worry about breaking them, losing them, or somebody stealing them, for example. But this one could be used as a work light. It can be taken from the holder and put on this magnetic pad and used as a magnetic light, for example, for mechanics. Of course, even these can be taken from the holder and used as a handheld light, including this one. And it allows various modifications. That's it, and if you like my videos, please consider subscribing, supporting my channel on Patreon, or using the thanks button, because this is what keeps my channel running. And big thanks to all of you who already support me.